Hi, this is parent coach Janet Bonin of Fine Tuned Families, welcoming you to another great conversation for busy parents. We created Wise Parents, Wise Kids as a way to help you parent smarter. Fine Tuned Families is on the web at www.finetunedfamilies.com. When you visit the website, you can connect with us via LinkedIn, Twitter, and our Facebook community. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next great conversation of Wise Parents, Wise Kids. This is parent coach Janet Bonin, and we have a wonderful topic of conversation today that I think is really important for all of us as parents. We're going to discuss the impact of social media on our family values and how our family values might be better, deeper, informed if we use social media and electronics wisely. So we're also going to be talking about what we might avoid and what we might steer towards as far as electronics and social media goes. Today we have my associate and friend Angela Woodrow joining me for the conversation, and our guest, who I'll introduce in just a moment, Akila Mendez-Valdez. Angie, welcome, and tell me just a snippet of who you are and what your passion is.
Hi, Janet. Glad to be here in the conversation today. I am a coach, a business coach that helps individuals and organizations figure out the next step to help them move forward. So it's always about growing and learning in the continuum. And I'm really excited to be here because I know families is always, the family life cycle is always a constant growing process. And I'd love to support growing processes. And I am really interested in the topic today, social media, and how its platforms can help us strengthen our families.
Great. And thank you, Angie, for being part of the call today. Our special guest is Akila Mendez-Valdez. And I'm going to let her say something about herself in a moment. But Akila is a wife, mother of two, blogger, and PR consultant. She started Haute in Texas in 2011 as a way to connect with fellow women who are in pursuit of the Haute life, and has since partnered with brands like Little Tykes, Mr. Smith's, and Mindy to help families make the best choices for their children. Her own experience with natural home birth and extended breastfeeding have been a hot topic of conversation, and she enjoys sharing her unique perspective with her readers. Akila, welcome to the call.
Hi, Janet. Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure. I'm so glad you said hello and yes to this because I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about all of this. So, am I saying that right? Haute in Texas?
Yeah, Haute in Texas. Some people say hot in Texas. It's fine either way. We'll just roll with it.
Because it is hot in Texas, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a little play on words there. So, yeah, it doesn't bother me either way.
Awesome.
So, you have been doing this, Houghton, Texas, since 2011. What kind of got you excited about getting started with that?
So I actually started the blog when I was about to move to Texas. My husband and I had just gotten married, and I had lived my entire life in the Midwest and gone to school and everything there. And so when it was time to move, a friend of mine that I had gone to college with was also moving to a different part of Texas with her new husband. And so we kind of felt like, what would be a good way for us to kind of get in touch with the communities that we're moving to and explore this new area that we're going to be living in. And, of course, everybody can start a blog and anybody can do it. And so we did. And never in a million years would have imagined that it would have grown into, my full-time business. And, my friend ended up moving out of Texas, and so I took it over by myself. But it's really been a huge blessing for us, for our family. It's part scrapbook and part business for me. So I really, couldn't ask for a better way to spend my days.
How wonderful. And you are serving moms and indirectly dads through your business, right?
Yeah. I, after I had my daughters, initially my blog was purely fashion, beauty, very, kind of streamlined topics. But once I had my first daughter, Cora, in 2012, I just couldn't not talk about her. So my family and motherhood and all of that inevitably became a part of the blog as well, just because they're such a huge part of my life.
So let's dive into today's topic. And this is a big question right off the bat, but I want to ask you your thoughts on this one. If you go with the analogy, good thoughts in, good actions out, how do we as parents choose social media that supports this philosophy? Another way to look at it, how can we make sure that the social media we choose supports our family philosophies and values?
Yeah, well, as far as, making sure that we're choosing the right social media, I think for me, one of the things that I typically do is when a new app or when a new, platform is coming out initially, I always kind of give it a little bit before joining, and especially before exposing my children to that. Because a lot of times I think social media is kind of finding its footing in the beginning, and maybe there's parts of it that aren't so wholesome and, support values that you are about for your family. So, for example, maybe Snapchat was something where in the beginning, probably not a very family-friendly app. But as it's kind of grown up and become a little bit more mature of an app and a social media platform, they've built in that privacy, that, safety parts of it into their policies where, okay, now I feel like I'm willing to kind of jump into that with my family and, and have at least myself have a presence on there. And then, see if it's something for my children later on down the road. So just kind of having that patience, I think, with social media to let it develop into something and just keep an eye on it until you're comfortable with it.
That's excellent. And so you're allowing each of these different platforms or locations to find their own voice and laying that alongside your values, looking to see if you find it wholesome enough for yourself. So one of the points I would like to make to the listeners here, too, in my mind, is regardless of the ages of our children, we as parents are being influenced by what we're reading, what we're seeing, what social media locations we're going to. And so I really see a connection here to the idea of good thoughts in, good actions out, because we are helping to build ourselves into stronger people and stronger parents with what we choose to do, what we choose to see, where we choose to engage.
And I would just like to ask Akila this question. So you're in the business of social media, and you have a stronger sense of where to go and look for information. But for someone who doesn't do social media every day as a business, where do you go to find out about that app? Is it as intuitive as when you're on your app download, either your Android or your App Store on your iPhone, reading the reviews of, what people think? Is that an accurate way to get information about the platform, or is there another space that someone should go and look at?
Yeah, I think I'm a big proponent of, reviews from other people and kind of seeing how they like it, how they appreciate the platform, and if they allow their children to be on it. There's also sites like socialmediaexaminer.com that keeps an eye on kind of the general social media environment, and will update you too on if there's, an app update, like, Instagram's changing their, policies and kind of shifting their whole platform around, and you can kind of, access those websites without having to actually be a part of the social media app and still feel informed enough to make decisions, for your family.
And I would imagine, too, there's great parenting sites that review apps periodically, so that might be another good place to go, is looking at, from a perspective of a parent, what does this parenting site say about this app, right?
Yeah, certainly.
So, all right. Another question I was curious about, and we all have different perspectives, different philosophies. As parents, we're going to land in different places on this next question. But in your opinion, how can we limit screen time, and should we limit screen time for our children? And I understand, Akilah, right now yours are very, very young, so it kind of doesn't play into your immediate decisions, but in the future it will. So what's your opinion about limiting screen time and how to do it, if so?
Yeah. So for my family, my oldest is 4, my youngest is 1. And of course, we've all heard the, recommendation that there should be no screen time before 2. But that's a really hard standard, I think, for most families, who have got things to do and have got, they need that 5 minutes of peace where they can let the kid have a little bit of screen time. So, I understand that would be ideal to be able to wait until 2, but I don't know very many families that are able to do that. And we're kind of in the same boat. The way that we, control it and limit it is we actually don't have cable at our house. So we only have Netflix, and we have Hulu, which is really only for my husband and I. Netflix is what the kids are on for the most part. And then my daughter has an iPad, but we really only let her use that, on the airplane, or if we're going to be on a long car ride or something like that. She really is not on the iPad when we're just sitting at home and just there. So Netflix, I think, is a great way to be able to control how much they're watching, because you can make sure that it doesn't continue on to the next episode unless you want it to. So, she'll get, and you can control, what type of shows they're watching. So both of my daughters really love Daniel Tiger, which is a PBS show. It's really wholesome, teaches good values. There's not any kids in there that are behaving in a way that I would want, that I wouldn't want my daughter to be behaving. And so I think that's a good one where, okay, we can watch, one of those in the morning, or maybe if I'm trying to get the baby down for a nap, I can let Cora watch, one show while I'm trying to do that and get that done. But the biggest thing, I think, is having that parental control and being able to decide what you want to do for your family.
And there are, on Netflix and other similar offerings, there are ways to set parental controls on that, right?
Right. Yeah, it's very friendly. I mean, you can have a totally separate login for your kids on Netflix, so that they don't even see any other options besides children's programming. Because, there are inevitably, there's choices that you wouldn't want your children to be watching on Netflix, and you can't, remove that completely. But at least with a kid's login and those options, you can do your best. Great.
So in the same vein, what are some of your favorite educational apps for when screen time is allowed?
So I tend to like really simple apps. If there's a lot of noise or, bells and whistles and things that are flying at my kids, when they're looking at the screen, it just feels like too much, too, overstimulating. So one of the ones that I love that my youngest, my 1-year-old, could sit there and play, for 10, 15 minutes, which is a long time for a 1-year-old, is called Color Dots. And it's literally just a dot that's moving around on the screen, and she has to touch it. And when she touches it, it turns into 2 dots. And then the 2 turn into 3, and then the 3, and it goes on and on and on. And so it's kind of working on that, motor skills and interacting with the screen and whatnot, but it's not too much for her little brain to kind of take in. And then for my daughter, older daughter, my 4-year-old, she's at the point where she kind of needs more of the preschool kind of apps. And so we do like abcmouse.com. Has a lot of great educational, and they'll take you through letter recognition and, the beginnings of, learning to write and learning to read. And those are things that are really important to me. And I feel comfortable using an app to be able to kind of supplement what we're doing on our own.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So it sounds like some of what you're doing is looking at apps from a perspective of, can they be educational? Not only are they safe for my children at whatever age and stage of development they are currently at, but can it also help educate or inspire or encourage my child?
Right. Yeah. And I think, as much as we want to limit how much they're around technology, it's really inevitable that as they become a part of the real world, they need to be obviously computer literate, and they need to be able to, function well within a society that is requiring everything to be on mobile. And, I don't want to limit my children so much so that, when they're asked to complete a task, for school using technology, that it's completely foreign to them. But I also want them to know, how to read a physical book and, and have, that sort of upbringing as well. That's a little bit more on the traditional side, I guess.
Beautiful, beautiful. So talking about kind of a balancing act here. Moderation being the key, which is something I espouse in most areas. If we as parents totally deny our kids any one thing, developmentally, after a point, they're going to desire the one thing that they're denied. And you can have, unfortunately, a bit of pushback as they get older. You never let me do X and such. Anything that's, now, of course, I'm only talking about things that are safe and appropriate, but if we deny kids something totally, it tends to make them desire that more. And I can remember examples in a very simple way of, for example, friends of mine or their kids who were never, ever allowed to eat candy in their household growing up. And what they would say is that as an adult or when I went to visit my friends' houses, I would go straight for their candy stash, wherever it was, and I would gorge myself on it. And now I have a poor relationship with all sweets because I didn't learn how to moderate the way I was consuming it. So this has been a wonderful conversation, and I know there's a lot more we could talk about, but I wanted to ask you, Akilah, if you had some final thoughts that you wanted to add right here. And if not, I know you've got a challenge to share with the listeners. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head, Janet, that it's just about finding that balance for your family. You know, no mother is perfect. No family is perfect. You're never going to be able to hold yourself to that ultimate standard of perfection. So giving yourself some grace and some forgiveness when, you know what, I'm exhausted. I need to let my kid be on social media for, you know, a little bit here tonight or something. So you can have a little bit of quiet, you know, that's okay. That's all right. You need to be gentle with yourself, and understand that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to find the right answer. And, you know, as far as a challenge, I know, I think one of the things that is really important for us as parents is to make sure that our kids don't see us completely obsessed with social media. And, you know, if they start to get the idea that man, my mom is on the phone and looking at my phone more than she's looking at me. So maybe that phone is the coolest thing in the entire world. And I think one of the things that you can share a link with your listeners was a social media or a smartphone detox for a week. And it's something that, you know, I would love to do, and I think it would be a great thing for parents to do, to just kind of make sure that you're weaning yourself and keeping your own usage under control so that your kids see that and can follow that example.
That's wonderful. So I'm going to put a link up on with the slides that we put up with this recording, and it will be the link that Akilah just talked about, social media detox link. So, Akilah, thank you so much for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit more about where people can connect with you? Especially, I know you mentioned some Pinterest pages.
Yeah, so specifically with this topic, I use Pinterest a lot to kind of gather ideas and keep them all organized. So I have parenting boards, I have, preschool boards where I'm kind of getting ideas because it's so much easier to just plop them in front of a TV that if you want to make sure you're getting experiences for your kids that are outside of technology, it really takes some planning. So all of my Pinterest boards have a lot of great ideas for hands-on activities, really simple crafts, things like that, where parents can kind of be equipping themselves with the tools they need. And then, as far as social media in general, you can find me just about anywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Periscope, everywhere and anywhere. And I try to be on there just as much as I have to, and then take a break every once in a while.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Akilah, for being the guest today and being open to discussing all of this. It's been a huge blessing to us to have you here and talking with us today on Wise Parents, Wise Kids.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a total honor for me.
And Angie, thank you so much for joining us and chiming in and listening and being here from your wise perspective as both parent and grandparent and fellow associate to Fine Tune Families and Families of the Way.
Mm-hmm. I'm really in awe when I get to listen to my daughters and Akilah and the moms that are just being so wise and present with their kids. We're as a nation and as humanity, we're going to be okay. We are going to be okay. That's always such a good feeling for me to know.
It is, especially as we focus on becoming wiser parents, which is why we are doing these interviews, these conversations. How do we look at the big picture in our world of how we're parenting our children and how we're becoming wiser people? And that does involve a little bit of effort, but our willingness to do that and then bring that to our families is a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right. Thank you, folks, for listening. And, Angie, did you have one more thought there?
No, just everybody have a great day.
Yes. Thank y'all for listening. Everyone have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
That wraps up another great conversation for busy parents. This is parent coach Janet Bonin thanking you for joining us today on Wise Parents, Wise Kids, an interview series with experts who help you parent smarter. Learn more about Fine Tune Families by visiting us on the web and connecting with us through LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want more information on today's conversation, go to www.finetunedfamilies.com, click the Get Help Now tab, and enter the name of today's topic. I'll be happy to send you the link to this recording, PowerPoint notes on the call, and links to the resources we discussed on the call.